Hey there, friends of the Indian Hill Gallery. I'm Matt Zory. I'm the assistant principal bass with the Cincinnati Symphony and a photographer. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about creating a platinum palladium print. These prints were one of the early printing methods from the 1870s. Let me show you a print right here. This is the one we're going to work on. And this one is up in the Indian Hill Gallery show. We are starting from this digital image here on my computer. See, there's a lot of glare there. That's the picture. So the platinum palladium process, it involves platinum salts, palladium salts, and a light sensitive chemical. I'm going to coat my own paper with these chemicals. We're going to create it's a contact print method, so we're going to create a negative that we want to be the same size as the print, and we'll go from there. One of the things you have to do is you have to have all your components kind of talk to each other. You know, when you have a computer and an inkjet printer, you press a button and the computer figures all that out. You know, how much ink to lay down, where to lay it down. And but we're going to have to do that on our own. We have to take into account the how much light's coming from the UV box. We're going to have to take into account the different types of paper. The humidity makes a big factor, the density of your negative, and also many photographers use a black and white negative or grayscale negative, but in the process that I use, we add some color to the negative because you get even more tones. So here is, I'll show you the final negative that we use. It's a combination of mostly green with a little bit of blue in it. And that will give us our whitest whites down to our blackest blacks. So if we look at this picture here on the computer screen, what's interesting is if we were to create a negative like that, just invert it. That's what that is, strict inversion, where the blacks become white and the whites become blacks. That negative would come out, or that photograph, if we were to print it using the platinum palladium process, would come out extremely low contrast and very flat. And so if we add this curve that I created, we'll get the right amount of density in just the right places. And as I showed you with the negative, we needed to add those certain color tints as well. So when I add that, that's what it looks like on the screen. And when you print it on what essentially is overhead projector paper or film, and that's what it looks like. So that is an inkjet negative that we're going to use to create our print. That is the negative process in short. Well, I'll do this part in bits and pieces. This is the space where I work. Usually it's pretty much in the dark, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'll shed some light. I've created a concoction of our 3 chemicals. It's not much, right? This is the paper we're working with, and I've drawn a template the size of our negative. You can see the pencil mark on there. And I'm going to use I'm going to pour the chemical on there and use a brush to spread it. I've got 2 brushes actually that I use. This is a beauty actually. Uses a lot more chemical, as you can see. It's a much thicker brush. This is a boar's head brush, Japanese boar's hair brush. And then I have a bank of, I'll have the developer here that will pour into it, and some cleaning solutions as well. And this is my UV box that I built. It's not pretty, so basically it's a series of black lights in there, and we will put our print in here, and more will be seen in a moment. So, I'm going to pour our chemicals on here. I'm afraid I can't get the camera in a better angle, but just pour it on to our paper, and we will spread it. Gee, I've never done this in the light before. Because of all the light, we might get a slightly fogged print. But this is for demonstration purposes. That'll be just fine. And I'm just drawing the chemical very lightly over the paper. The brush was slightly damp when I started. And you want it to absorb really well and evenly. And basically, when the brush starts to drag a little bit, like it just started dragging, then I know I'm finished. And we're going to let that dry. So I think our paper is probably dry enough, but let me show you the contact print box or frame, contact print frame. I will take the back off. It just leaves a piece of glass in there. And we've got our negative here. Grab our paper, maybe it's in there. It might be just I like it when it's just, it can't be wet because it'll ruin the negative, but if there's just the slightest bit of moisture still in there, it helps with the blacks. The humidity really helps with your blacks. And I line up the negative with the pencil marks and put it down in there. Close it up. Now I know from using test strips with my particular amount of chemicals and my particular UV box and this type of paper, I know that my exposure should be 8.5 minutes. So, got that in there. I'm going to set my timer for 8.5 minutes, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to turn on the UV box. Sometimes I turn on the timer and I forget to turn on the UV box. That's a bummer. But today, I've got them both. And we'll come back in 8.5 minutes. Time's up. Hope you get something out of this. Okay. You can see we're seeing where the UV light affected the chemical. Turned black on the light. You'll be able to see some of the shadows come up on there already. And now, you take the phone off the stand here, and I will pour in the developer. And let's see if we can see that. How do we get that on there? There we go. Oh, pretty good, huh? Magical. Magical, magical. And basically, it's a 2-minute development time. I probably should have put in more developer. Well, I've got our print going in a clearing bath. The wonderful thing about this process is it's so permanent. These platinum and palladium salts will last for hundreds of years. They'll the print will outlast the paper. I don't remember if I mentioned, so these are what the chemicals come in, just little bottles like this. And, you know, the starter kit will cost you about $200 in chemicals. Platinum and palladium being the most expensive, or a couple of the most expensive metals on the periodic table there. It's funny, you know, I wasn't taking this print seriously just because we're doing it just as a demo, but wow. It's a beauty, actually. Came out really well. Very pleased with it. And it'll look great framed and hanging on your wall. So the final part of the printing process is there's 5 minutes in 3 different cleaning baths, and then about 20 minutes under slowly running water to really get all the chemicals out. And I thought I'd share with you, I've done a number of quiet still lives in platinum palladium as well. Just with some things I had around the studio. I hope you'll come down to Indian Hill Gallery and see you there.